just going to crash the stream and then try to reboot it. Okay, I believe we still have streaming capabilities. Okay, so there's the sort of new map here. So if I can get the entity 2e working, I would like to take this map and duplicate it. Right now it's the small version, but I would like to be able to, I think I probably want to export a second version that is completely flat. So this one obviously has some 3 dimensions to it, and I think I want to keep it that way. But it would be nice if I could take one that's completely flat and render it. That is pretty trippy for me, actually. Look at this. So my mind has now started registering that this is part of the cave, and so when I did this, I was like rotating the cave 90 degrees, negative 90 degrees about the z-axis. Anyways, I want to actually do that. Rotate this negative 90 degrees about the z-axis relative to this one, and the cave itself should fit nicely into the maps cave. So let's see if I can get the entity 2e working, because it was working earlier. cd source then activate Python scripts entity 2e, so that usually works. And then usually I can pip install from this. I might have to create another venv, which I hate doing. Okay, I'm just going to rm that venv. Did this last time on a stream. Okay, yeah, we can just do this one. Source, I'll actually kill this, K. Source, then activate pip install ZMQ. Okay, so now pip works. So I want to Python scripts entity 2e pip install rich. And so I'm actually going to have to go through a few of these. Client libs, Python pip install dot. Let's do that again. Pip install Google. You can just pip install Google. Pip install protobuf. Okay. So there's the entity 2e. So like I said, what I was going to do is if we go down to the bottom here, you can see right there, so that's the map 0. It's at 10 and it's it has no rotation, so we want to rotate it about the z-axis. So to do this, I'm going to add a model here first. So I press M. I now am in the model area, and so I can type colon Uber Vox map 0.odj. And I can press enter and it will add the model, and I can go left. Now I'm back in the left list. So I'll add positionable. So the other one was at 10, so we'll set this at 10. And then this will probably rotate 90 about the axis there. Then something to take note is what scale is this at, or what should it be at? Okay, so these are the exact two same things. One's just rotated 90 degrees. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. So you can see that this is pretty much exactly the way we want it to be. You can see it right here. Okay, and the cave is almost, I don't know, it's almost exactly where it needs to be. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scale this up. So this thing is probably like, let's do 100 first, but it's probably like 1,000, 10,000 maybe. Did I scale the right one? I scaled the wrong one. Let's not scale that one by that big. This one goes back to 1. So it's this one that we're actually going to scale to. We can do 50 first. Let's try 50. Okay, there we go. So we can see the map over here. And we're actually, are we too far above it? It's really easy to get lost in this map. Okay, so I think I'm literally at the edge of it. Okay. It's a pretty big map, and I'm at the edge. So I think it has a lot of translation that needs to happen. So before I do that, let's drop this down to 30, and then let's try to get the translation correct for size 30. And then we can just start doubling it. Okay, so I suspect we are down here in this bottom far left corner. And so we probably want to move this like negative 400 maybe? Negative 200. What's the negative direction? I forgot what the negative direction was. 230. Okay, so negative direction is in the screen right now, so we actually want to move it to maybe 200 in the positive direction. Okay, so now we can actually see some green over there, but it's only the light green right here. So let's move it a little bit more. Let's move it maybe 300, 400, 500, 600. Now we're in the King's Land. 700. Okay, so the cool thing is you can see the cave now sort of lined up exactly where we are. So we're almost in the right position. And something you'll notice is how small the cave is in retro. So I think the cave is actually decent in its sort of dimensions, maybe. Probably needs to be a bit taller, relatively speaking. But we certainly need to enlarge it. But before we do that, let's sort of move it a little bit closer and maybe move it a bit more downwards. So right now it's at 10. That probably doesn't need to be at 10. Move it to 0. That actually looks really cool with the orange there. It actually looks hilariously cool. Like creepily. It's very strange. I do think I am going to move it in the z-axis. So let's do 100, see which direction that moves it. Okay, negative 100. Okay, so you can see that we brought the cave a lot closer. Let's do it negative 150. Okay, so we can barely see the cave, and you can see that the cave is in the cave. That it's probably, so we need to probably double it twice, maybe 3 times, so that'd be between 4 and 8, so we can do a multiple of 5 maybe. No, let's not do 5. I like scaling this to 120. So let's do that, scale that to 120. And let's take a look at what we have here. So it's difficult to tell again where we are at. But in scaling the last time, we multiplied everything by 4 basically. So I imagine we probably do the same thing here. So 2800, that looks about right. Scale this by 4, which would be 3, negative 600 maybe. Okay, so I think that worked almost exactly as I expected it would. So the cave has sort of been transported here. Pretty amused at how good that quality is there. So something that I could do to make it a little less annoying is, right now it's at a position of something pretty insane, but I can put it down into Hades. So when you're not working on the world, you sort of have to slip off the real world and you can see the fake world underneath it. So that's kind of funny. It's the under realm, I think I am going to keep it like that. I think it's pretty cool to keep it like that. But I do want to, what was I going to do? I was going to drop it a little bit farther maybe. I wanted to move it a little bit to the right, I believe. So like maybe 2900. Or 2850 maybe. Let's go into the underrealm. Okay, I think that's, probably need to move it this direction a little bit more too. Okay, I'll take it. Okay, so we have the real world, and then it's going to be a bit difficult to see, but it drops off into the underworld. And then in the underworld, there's a weird rendering glitch, or it's not a glitch really, it's something I need to fix. It's just the render distance is very low. You can see how easy it would be to get lost in this map with such a low render distance. In some regards, that's kind of cool. Like, I almost think I want to make this world a little bit bigger. So right now, it's, what's the scale? It's 120 scale. So it's only 120 times this size. I mean, it's not ideal. I think I might want to make it like maybe 500 scale. So I might do that. But I do like having it set up like this, where the map is sort of the Hades underworld. It does make it look a little weird, like you're kind of like, what the F is going on here? It's like, oh, we just have an underworld. That's what's going on here. See if we have any chat. The Comported Box is amazing, says hi. Hello. Time-Lapse Corner says yo. Yo. These are all probably recommends. Who is... oh. I'm in a sort of broken state here. You can see my cursor, which, by the way, this is a cool software cursor that it's rendering a, it's actually rendering a like micro fractal. It's like it's a tree fractal, a tree micro fractal. Okay, the cursor has been fixed, but I do want to show off this software cursor microfractal thing here. So let's go to tree fractal. Okay, so this is my cursor upside down. You can kind of see it. I probably should make it a bigger cursor. So not every frame, but I think it renders it and then caches it or something. But it has that, it has to compute the pixels for that fractal when it boots. Oh no. I wonder if I can just quit and then hopefully it didn't delete the model I just created down there. Okay, so something that I have to be careful about is this, everything here won't save unless I restart the stream without it crashing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to intentionally crash the stream, but safely exit HackMatrix, and then I'll restart the stream before YouTube detects it. Okay, I believe the stream is back. Yeah, we are. I didn't want to draw a cursor for context, for people just listening to the audio. Time-Lapse Corner asks, is it just because you wanted it, or is there a reason you chose such a strange object, meaning for the cursor? As you can see in the sort of recursive zooming in on that cursor fractal, at some point in my screen it will get as big as just the mouse here. In fact, right here it will be smaller than the mouse, roughly the same size. Anyways, I don't know, I like fractals, and I needed to software generate a cursor, and I didn't want to use like an image. I wanted like something that could just be generated on the fly. And so to me the easiest way to do that would be just some sort of mathematical object that is cursor-like. And so this fractal sort of turned out to be a good choice for it. I like fractals. I think they're... One of the things about fractals is they have fractional dimension, is what people call them mathematically. Which means that in a way they don't have, like if you were to ask me what is the circumference, or like what is the perimeter of this fractal object, it would really depend on what your differential size is, because if you have a fractal, it can be you can have an infinite perimeter basically, just by zigzagging up and down a million infinite times. So it really depends on what your differential, your unit of measurement essentially is. And that makes them actually really suitable to being pointers, because if you need a finer tip on your pointer, mathematically, like if you were to zoom in onto your pointer, if it's a fractal, it will always have a more defined, more refined point, more even if you zoom in. Whereas if you use like an image, if you were to zoom in on the pointer of an image, or an image of a pointer, at some point the edge would pixelate. That doesn't really happen with a fractal. Because a fractal, if it's drawn on 2D, if it's technically a 2D fractal, it's more like a 2.5D fractal, or 5.5D object, 2.5D object. It's a really interesting mathematical concept. Fractional dimensions, or fractal dimensions. So here's exactly what I talked about. So if you are measuring in 200 kilometer units, it measures 230, 100, 2300. If you measure it in 100 kilometer units, it's 2800. 50 kilometer units, 3500, and it really can keep going infinitely. So they're called fractured dimensions. Yeah, taking the integral of the perimeter, yep. Yeah, I think to me, they feel somewhat related to imaginary numbers and Fourier transforms. Because the thing with say a complex wave is you can have a series of frequency nodes embedded within that that single wave, and then you can do a Fourier transform or Fourier analysis to sort of pull out the frequency nodes. And if you think about what we just illustrated with the sort of perimeter thing, you can consider the sort of the measurement length or the d length that sort of represents a frequency in a Fourier transform. It's not exactly the same thing, but I think both of them probably have some relationship. I know that the Fourier transform does to imaginary numbers. I imagine that the fractional dimension likely has something. To me, it just seems like sort of intuitive for this to involve imaginary numbers. But I do like studying these fractal objects. And they're very useful for practicing like recursion and thinking about recursion. I only barely understand imaginary numbers. There's a cool 3 blue, 1 brown video, I think. About Fourier transforms, or a Laplace transform. Laplace transforms are cool too. Those are used for neural networks. But here is, yeah, there's some interesting stuff about fractals. I actually haven't looked at this. I bet I would learn so much more about fractals if I watched these two videos. Okay, so this is a Fourier series. This video is, I think, pretty good. This actually sort of explains why imaginary numbers are cool. So in a way, they're sort of alchemical. There's so much alchemical magic, metaphysics that sort of underpins the mathematics here. But in this, he's going to relate the imaginary numbers to the circle. And then so that sort of teaches one to understand how you can use it to do cycle analysis or frequency analysis. This is demonstrating that you can embed pretty much any shape you want into a Fourier series. Just sort of the premise. And so this just encodes movements through, a plane. So just a series of XY points. And the Fourier series is creating those various points. Just sampling the point space and using it to draw. I think this one is probably the best, though. This one shows. See, I think it's a really good illustration to see this winding graph. Once you see this graph here, this sort of helps one understand like what's going on with imaginary numbers. This entire video is really good at sort of giving a person an intuitive grasp of the concept. I think for me, it was probably when I started to do rudimentary signal analysis. So in like circuits in university, one starts to do Fourier analysis of various components, because the capacitors and inductors have differential equations associated with them, so that you can obviously induce certain signals through these things, and that sort of is the physical rudiments of signal analysis and signals in general. That's how we first started generating signals like this. And so you learn the Fourier transform. You can also do analysis on like vibrations. I know that mechanical engineers study Fourier transforms pretty heavily. I think I first started really studying them for noise analysis or sound analysis. You can transform audio into a sort of spectrograph that you can then visually analyze and actually visually change and then convert back into audio. Okay, so let's go down into Hades real quick. Okay, so here we are in Hades, which is the low resolution area of where we just were. So there's the temple. There should be some trees here. There aren't. Maybe we can actually add those details. If we're going to have an underworld, maybe the underworld should be a little more detailed, even if it's low poly, low res. So to do this, I open up kitty term. I'll go into my screen, and then I will run Magic of Voxel, and I will sleep 2 or 3. So it's going to launch here. If I knew the path to that, I could have just launched it in RoFi. But I didn't know the path offhand, so I didn't. Okay, so I have X here. Map 0. At some point, HackMatrix was already a voxel editor. It wasn't a very good one. It was Minecraft style. I think I'm going to bring that back, because I think it would do very well at being an editor, sort of like Magic of Voxel is. It could probably compete with Magic of Voxel, I would say. Except I'm actually more interested in voxel-based engineering design. I think it can be pretty good at engineering design. I think the paradigms for voxel-based engineering design would probably have to, you'd have to sort of switch what it means to design things, what the parameters are. You can have a fully parameterized CAD engine, basically. Voxel-based version of that would probably have maybe slightly different concepts that focus more on sort of discrete jumps. You could always decrease the resolution though and get a sufficiently resolute object. Okay, so I said I wanted trees, so I'm going to add maybe something that resembles trees here. So actually it's just a little courtyard area. So I'll just say that those are the trees. It might not even be the full thing, it might just be one of these squares here. So those are the trees. There's some green over there, and then for some reason the cave is looking directly over Kingsland. And so if you were to see here, you shouldn't, the orange here is Kingsland. This is the Circus Forest in Kingsland. But if I go to the edge of the cave, there should be still forest. So I think that the size of the cave needs to be doubled. Not on the map though, it needs to be doubled in the engine TUI. So I think I'm going to take care of that, and then maybe sort of make, I think these are sort of ruined pathways maybe. That's my image here. So this is sort of a forbidden forest. Maybe the king built the castle here a long time ago and got scared of the forest because there are monks or mages or something, and he sort of leaves them alone. In fact, I sort of like that idea, so I'm going to paint that idea in. So it used to be that the king was fine to go into the forest, and there was a door. There was a gateway that existed with paths. But one day the gate was shut. Only a hero that possesses flight can now access the realm. Okay, I'm going to reopen the entity TUI here. I didn't save it. Not was I saved it, but I didn't export it. So I just reloaded all of that for nothing. Okay. Home, colon, Cleaver, logos, vox, map0.obj. Hopefully that reloads it. It might not actually reload it like that. Oh, no, it did. Okay. Okay, do the same down here. Home, colon, Cleaver, logos. Map0.obj. Okay, so now head down to the underworld. Okay, so that looks okay, except we go back up to the overworld. What in the world? Okay, so you can see that the overworld and the underworld. The overworld doesn't have anything on the outside of the cave that extends behind it. You can see it's about half as big as it needs to be, the underworld. So let's go ahead and double the size of the underworld. Okay, yeah, so this is the underworld, so we need to double everything here. So this is going to be 440 or 240. 240 scale. And so all of this needs to be doubled. So 4647. Yeah, 4700. Right. Yeah, 4700. 5700. And then 1300. Negative 1300. So with luck, okay, so we have the cave exactly where it needs to be. Okay, so you can see that that's almost perfect. So I actually would want to move this maybe back 1350. Because you could see that the cave, okay, that was maybe a bit too much. So maybe 1330. Oh, rare opportunity, guys. Peak rare opportunity. Oh my gosh. It's not quite leet. Some noob didn't make it fully leet, guys. That's leet fail. Farther back we go, it looks more and more leet. And yet, I'm keeping it here. Okay. What happened to the stream sources here? There they are. This stream is so information dense right now. Definitely gonna watch the video. friend in what? I'm not sure what that means either. Move between windows and teleport back to your previous position. So yeah, I can do, oh gosh. I got into the wrong HackMatrix. Hopefully I didn't kill the stream just now. So for some reason when I restarted, the map disappeared. The maps completely disappeared. So hopefully they didn't, I do have hotkey switching. The problem is I think there's probably a bounds issue where if I try to hotkey switch between a window that doesn't exist, like if I were to press Windows 3, I think it crashes. So that's why the stream just crashed. And something that's unfortunate is I think maybe the models didn't load or something. For some reason, the maps are no longer in the world. So I'm going to source the Vend and then open up that entity TUI and see what the databases look like. Then activate and then Python source scripts entity TUI. And before I do that, I'm going to lower the resolution, or actually increase the resolution. Okay, so we have both models before, so this one existed before we doubled, and then it says the model isn't present for some reason, and that's not a problem. Okay, so this is the underworld. Okay, so the underworld is back. And we can make the side map, the one that exists in the overworld, for us to view. I can add that back as well. So it's home, column, cuber, strokes, map0.obj. There we go. Okay, and so now as long as HackMatrix doesn't crash, and I exit HackMatrix, and before it crashes, I should be good. I do need to do the math again, which is unfortunate. So to do the math, I did sort of mess up the math in my head last time. So this is 4, so 5, 6, 5, 7. And then this is 12, and this is 17. No, 12 and then 13. Oh, and that's definitely not going to be correct until I double this to be 240. Okay, so if I go down, this looks to me to be pretty well aligned, except, so I did the doubling, and the cool thing I remember about this, I'm glad I didn't forget, is this isn't actually 13. This is actually leet. Negative leet. With just like a little bit left over. Okay, so now we're in the underworld. So I can increase the speed of it. difficult to see what goes on in the underworld. You wander too far in the underworld and walls just start disappearing. And then you're just lost. Is that the underworld forest? The circus forest? The giant hole to nowhere? Okay, so there is actually supposed to be a door into the cave. Oh, you know what? The entire time I thought that these hole things were... Oh, they're not holes. Okay. Okay. So that's just a white sort of baseline. And then back up to the overworld. The lampshade tells you the way. And now we can just experience what we just experienced, but sideways. And we're in the cave right now. Okay. There we are. Let's look at chat. The sound effects are glorious. Thank you. The underworld is a very curious place. Yeah. Okay. So I actually do want to make a castle real quick. So let's run Magic of Voxel. So I'm going to open up the map again. Once Magic of Voxel boots, and I'm going to work on this area. I'm going to build maybe a little, so this is going to be a ranch. So the king in the days of the great old, when the gate was open and the mages and the king were one, the king had a magnificent castle, but he built it mostly to be a horse stable. So he just wanted a country house where all of his horses could live a free, happy life on the ranch of the king's land. Okay, so we are going to paint ourselves a castle here. What color should a castle be but purple? The king found beautiful purple quartz crystals. A new type of quartz crystal that's purple. We decided to make a giant stable. This giant quartz crystal stable castle. These are his walls. The home was very small. The stable's somewhat larger. A gate. And a royal purple entryway. I suppose the castle is kind of tall too. We have to go visit it in the underworld, so. Okay, we're gonna make creepy cows, or creepy horses. We'll make them blue. Or we'll make them green. We're going to make, whoops. We're going to make some creepy horses that are green. And why are they creepy, you ask? Well, there's not enough dimensionality down here in the underworld to actually make a full model of a horse. In fact, 2 pixels are almost too large for a horse. They're just going to be oddly sized because, well, there's not a lot of resolution. Which means the horse is as long as the house, which is really not ideal. There we go. Cool. Now let us export the OBJ file. To ask me if I wish to overwrite. Yes. Okay. And back to the entity TUI. Source. Then activate Python scripts entity TUI. Exit. Minimize, increase. Home column, cruiser logo, box, map 0 dot obj. Okay, so this is the big one. You can go ahead and do the small one as well. Column, cruiser logos. can see our underworld castle and demon cows, so let's go take a look at them. Let's increase speed since we are in the underworld. Okay. These are cows the size of... they're huge. Each one of these are a single story, basically. So big the house is supposed to be. These cows are massive. And here's the stable for them. Down in the pixel world, underworld. But now we can cruise on back up into the highly detailed world that we've been hacking in. And let's do that same cruise in the smaller overworld. Alright, let's go. I'm lost. I've become lost in the underworld. The over-underworld. Okay, there are the cows. Okay, we have to make it into the cave here. We've always been in the cave though. Okay, so I'm going to kill this. Okay, I think I'm done for today from now. It's a castle for horses without a stable, yes. Okay, so I'm going to stop the stream from now. I'll be back later. Adios. Have a good night if I don't see you guys again for the rest of the night.